Hello and welcome to another Rotors Tech Tip. This time I'm going to be talking to you about transmitters. It originally started off as just being a thing about thumbs and fingers versus thumbs only, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth than that. So, firstly, this is the Futaba 8FG, and I personally quite like Futaba. Never given me any troubles. I had a bit of a foray with JR and that sort of thing, but yeah, I like the Futaba radios, but not quite for the reasons that you'd expect. For me, the software side of things, I'm not quite I'm not really that fussed about it, because these days most of the work gets done in the flyby. So as long as I can assign switches to the switches, assign functions to the switches that I want to use. And sort of have some flexibility with how I can start timers and that sort of thing, then I'm really not that fussed about the software. How the thing feels in my hands, how it balances on an neck strap, because I use a neck strap, that is much more important. Things like spacing between the top and bottom switches here, that switch and that switch, that's really important to me, because the way I hold the transmitter, I lock my fingers in between the switches, and if some of the older Futaba radios, they were really tight in there. The high-tech Aurora is also quite tight in there. So those are quite important things. Now, the way I hold the transmitter, I'm a thumbs and fingers flyer. When I teach people to fly, that's what I recommend they do. It's like XY coordinates. Now, people talk about pinching, so they have the thumb behind and the finger in front. I don't personally like that. You don't have. It's too easy to slip off. So I use kind of almost like a hybrid of thumb and pinch. So thumbs on top, fingers in front, and what that gives you is the ability to have that precision of fine movements, but equally you can ease your finger off the sticks if you're going to be moving it quickly. So for things like TikToks and that sort of thing, if you can, when you don't need quite as much precision, you can go thumbs only quite easily. And the other thing is that the transmitter pretty much just rests in your palms. So I've got little finger underneath, and the palm is kind of supporting the back of the transmitter, so you can fly without a neck strap quite easily. And the other nice thing about it that I like is that it gives you easy access to all the switches. So if you have dual rates and that sort of thing set up, then you're pretty free about where you want them to be. So little finger behind, third finger between the two switches on the top, and then the next finger in front of those switches there, and then thumbs and fingers on top. So the transmitter is well supported in your hands, and so you can fly without a neck strap if you need to, but equally the neck strap is there to support the transmitter. So what I generally do is I have my idle up and my throttle holds here on these two. They're really easy to get to with the way I hold my transmitter. So throttle hold, when things do go wrong, throttle hold is really easy. It's just a little flick of the switch. Really easy to do. And the same thing with idle ups on this side. Then if you do have dual rate set up, you can configure them to here or here. What I tend to do also is I don't like to use these two back switches, because they are quite difficult to get to. A lot of transmitters will have the throttle hold by default on one of these back ones, and it's just not quite as easy to get to for me, from my personal preference. Trainer switch on this one is here. You don't have a lot of choice about that on any of the radios, I don't think. It's the only sprung one, but that's only really applicable if you're doing buddy boxing and that sort of thing. So that's how I hold it. That's how I put it together. So the reason I go for the thumbs is it is more accurate, but equally it does give you the freedom for the speed at the same time as well. Okay, so my setup on my heli, on my X5, is really, really, really simple. Very, very basic. I have my throttle hold and idle up 1 and idle up 2. I've got idle up 1 set to a slower head speed, but I don't use it. It's literally spool up, into idle up, and then take off and fly, and then throttle hold for the landing. The timer is set up on the throttle hold switch, so when the throttle hold is on, the timer is stopped, and when the throttle hold is off, the timer is on. There is nothing worse on an electric model, especially an electric model, than forgetting to set your timer. That's why it's on throttle hold. You can't physically fly without starting the timer. Okay. Another complaint I get with flying, people will fly thumbs. You know, they fly like this, and they'll fly with the sticks really, really short, and then they'll go, well, I tried flying with fingers and thumbs, but I couldn't do it because it just didn't feel comfortable. And when you actually try the transmitter, what you find is that the stick lengths are really, really short, and then fingers are then, as you can see there, my index finger is rubbing on the external rim of the body of the case. So if you lengthen the sticks up pretty much as long as they'll go, then that makes a lot of difference. You know, end's just fallen off. So I know that's as long as that's going to go. Just wind it on a couple of turns and lock it in, and then that means that you're not going to run into the rim, but you've still got full range of travel. You can get the sticks into the corners with no issues at all. Not that you ever get into the corners on a helicopter anyway. At least you shouldn't be. If you are, then you're probably doing something wrong. And that's pretty much it, really, with how I set my transmitter up. If you've got any questions, any problems, anything that I haven't made particularly clear, then just drop us an email or drop us a message on Google+, and I'll answer them as best I can. Thank you very much. Goodbye.